I forgot to mention.
Hey, it's me, Samantha, and welcome to my unboxing video.
I don't even say that. So,
what have we got in here?
Headphones? My camera is literally dying. My brother is over there being annoying. Stop being annoying. Hello there, it's Samantha. So today I'm coming to you with my June book haul and wrap up. So I swear that June just went on and on and on. But I managed to read 6 books and I'm about halfway through my 7th book and it is still the 29th, so there's every chance I'll finish it by tomorrow, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'll mention it, but I'm not gonna like properly review it. I'll do that in July when I finish it, because I will have finished it by then, because it's actually a reread of one of my favorite books of all time. Also, I'm sitting outside, so if you can hear any background noises, it's just out of my control. I live in London. It's a very noisy city, so yeah. Anyway, I also have 4 books to haul because I bought 2 books because I was just super excited for both of them, and I've already read one of them, so that's pretty good. I only have 1 left that I need to read that I bought, and I also received 2 books that I wanted in a giveaway. Anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the video. So I'm gonna start off with the book haul. So as I said, I won 2 books in a giveaway. I actually entered a giveaway way back in like January. It was on the Penguin Platform channel. If you don't know, Penguin Platform is a UK-based channel which is obviously connected to Penguin, the publishers, and I'm pretty sure that all of their giveaways are UK only. This is actually the 2nd giveaway I've won by them, and I think that's probably why. Anyway, but it was a giveaway for this book, which is The Truth and Lies of Ella Black. I apologize, this cover is super shiny, so it might be blinding you. It was a giveaway for a signed copy of this, so it is in fact signed. I entered to win this back in like January, but because they took so long to actually like choose the winner, because they only chose it like a couple weeks ago, they also threw in a 2nd book, which I'll mention in a second. But this book, I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but it seems kind of like a mystery sort of book. But it's about this girl called Ella Black, obviously, and one day her parents just take her to Brazil without any warning, and then she discovers this huge secret, and I think that for some reason she has 40 days until she dies, so I really don't know, and this book sounds like really interesting. However, it has some terrible reviews on Goodreads, so I'm kind of worried. It's got like a 2.9 on Goodreads, which is really low for Goodreads. Like, even terrible books have like at least 3 stars, so I'm kind of concerned, but I'm still gonna give it a shot. And obviously I didn't know this when I entered the giveaway, otherwise I wouldn't have, because I don't want to own books that I know I'm not gonna like, obviously. So yeah, it had good reviews at the time, but unfortunately more people have read it now and not enjoyed it, so I don't know, we'll see. They also sent me in that giveaway This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada, which I'm actually super excited to read. I'm not entirely sure what this book is about, but I do know that it's a dystopian where I'm pretty sure this girl's dad dies and he is the only person who would come up with the cure to some big disease which is going on right now in this world, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be romance because there is also a boy character in the description, so I'm sure that means it's gonna be romance. I don't have the best relationship with dystopian, but I've recently been reading a couple more and I kind of enjoyed them, so I think maybe I'm getting back into the dystopian swing again. I don't know, who knows, but I've heard really good things about this series, and also I'm obsessed with this British cover. So beautiful. This one is actually way better than the American cover. I'm sorry, but it's true. I'm very excited to read this. The next 2 books that I have to haul I actually bought. These were both pre-orders and they both came out on June 14th here in the UK, and the first one is a YA contemporary, which I was so excited to read, and I actually have already read it, so I will obviously talk about it in the wrap-up portion. That book was Save the Date by Morgan Matson. I started hearing things about this book back in like February, I think, and I just thought that it sounded like it was possibly going to be my favorite Morgan Matson book, and it 100% was. I'm not going to go into what it is about here because I will talk about it in the wrap-up, so yeah, but I just wanted to mention that I bought this book as well. The final book that I bought in the month is A Reaper at the Gates by Salva Tahir. This is the 3rd book in the Ember Quartet, obviously the 1st book being An Ember in the Ashes, and I'm so excited to read this book. It does obviously have a cover change from the other books, which is not ideal. I still love this cover, and I read the 2nd book earlier this year, so I'm really excited to see how the story continues on in this book, but I've heard that it kind of wrecks you and then it's like a 2-year wait for the next book, so I'm like, but I will read it soon. Now I'm moving on to the books that I read. So as I said, I read 6 books and I rated almost all of them 4.5 out of 5 stars, which is like a very specific rating, but clearly none of them were like 5-star reads and they were better than 4 stars. But yeah, and the lowest book that I rated was 3.5, so I had a pretty good reading month overall. So the first book that I finished in the month was Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae Files trilogy. I had about 200 pages of this book left to go at the beginning of this month, so I finished it pretty early on. I really enjoyed it, but I will say it was definitely definitely my least favorite in the series. I only ended up giving it a 4.5, whereas the other two books were definitely 5-star reads. It was still really good, but definitely not the best. But if you don't know what the Illuminae series is all about, it is basically this awesome sci-fi series set in space. Each book follows 2 different characters, kind of like a little bit of a couple situation in each book. And in the last book, we actually see some of the characters from the other books reappear, and everything gets sorted out in this book. It's just a lot of fun, but also kind of gruesome and sad, but like also just a great series. So definitely would recommend this. Also, it's told in the coolest format. Like there's loads of like emails, like notes being passed. Like it's just really cool. Definitely pick up the series if you haven't already. It is definitely worth the hype. The next book that I read, I also rated 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it was also a sequel, and that was Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This was the one book that I put on my TBR in May that I didn't actually manage to get to. I managed to read all the other ones, but I just ran out of time in May. But I did read it this month, and I absolutely loved this book. If you don't know, this is the sequel to Scythe, and Scythe is definitely one of my favorite books of the year. It's set in this utopian society where people can't die anymore. Like there are no accidents, and if there is an accident, you get revived, and there are no diseases or anything like that. And the only way you can die is by being gleaned by a person called a Scythe. And a Scythe is just a person who has been given the authority to kill people. The first book follows our 2 characters, Rowan and Citra, and they are both chosen to be a Scythe's apprentice, and it follows their journey as they might become Scythes. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but this book was fantastic. I will say I did enjoy the first book a tiny bit more. I only actually ended up giving this one a 4.5, but I still loved it. And the ending was just madness, and I cannot wait for the next book, although I have to because it doesn't come out till next year, so why? So I'm an idiot and I forgot to include a book, but now I'm inside because it's real hot outside. I forgot about it because I don't own the physical copy because I listened to it on audiobook. I finally finished listening to The Diviners on audiobook. I've been reading that since like March, and it just took me a really long time, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And that was actually a reread for me. I read it in 2016, but the third book came out last year and I'd forgotten everything, so I decided to listen to that one again and then listen to the second one again, which I'm currently doing. But these audiobooks are like 20 hours long, so it's like it takes a while. Anyway, but if you don't know what The Diviners is about, The Diviners is a really awesome book set in the 1920s, and it follows our main character, Evie, who is what they call a diviner. And she basically has this power where she can like hold something that belongs to someone, and she can tell what happened to that person whilst they were holding that object. She actually uses this power to help solve some murders which have occurred, because there's also a serial killer at the moment. There are loads of other diviners as well who have different powers. This book just follows Evie as she is trying to solve this crime, and it's very creepy and eerie, but not scary. Like, I'm a scaredy cat, but I managed to read it, so it's not a horror book, even though it does say that on Goodreads. It's not really horror. Like, I managed it, so you can do it too, I swear. I can't even watch horror movie trailers, so like, if I can deal with this book, I'm sure you can. So I also finished listening to that, and I give it 4.5. So yeah, anyway, bye. The next book that I read was actually an adult book, which is so strange because I pretty much exclusively read YA. I did say in my resolutions video that I was going to try and read more adult, so I guess I'm doing that. But it is by one of my favorite authors, so I had to pick it up, and I already owned it for like years, so it's about time. And I actually already have a spoiler-free review of this book already up on my channel, so I'll link it in the card and down below if you want to go and check that out, because I'm not going to go into too much details, but enough prefacing. That book is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. If you don't know what this book's about, which I'm sure you do because it came out in like 2013, so you might know already, but it is basically about this woman called Georgie. I forgot her name. It's about this woman called Georgie whose marriage is kind of falling apart, and it takes place actually over Christmas time, which I didn't know, otherwise I would have saved it until like December, but whatever. I didn't know, and it still didn't feel that Christmassy, so it was fine. But yeah, it follows this woman, Georgie, whose marriage is falling apart, and her husband takes her daughters back to Nebraska for Christmas, and Georgie has to stay in LA and work on her TV script. While she's still in LA, she goes to stay at her mom's house, and she actually finds a magical phone where she's able to communicate with her husband from the past, like before they actually got engaged, and she has to try and save her relationship in the past to hopefully save it in the future as well. It's a terrible description. Please just watch my review. I feel like I just explained it better in that. But I really enjoyed the story. I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It definitely wasn't my favorite Rainbow Rowell book, but I still really enjoyed it. It was really interesting to read about characters where they're already married, because like obviously I read like pretty much exclusively YA and they're not married in those books. So yeah, it was interesting to see a relationship falling apart rather than a relationship forming. It was very good. Would recommend, but watch my review if you want more better descriptions. The next book that I read was a middle grade book, which again, bit different because I normally read YA, and that book was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I actually started reading this book back in March, but I just only got like 50 pages in and then stopped. So I decided to pick it up again because I was in the mood for something like uplifting. It was kind of uplifting, but this book was not my favorite in the world, which I'm so sorry to say that, but I do think this book is super important. But I do think that this book is super important and will be great for middle grade readers to read, but I just think I was a bit too old for it. I also think that middle grade contemporary probably isn't for me because it's a bit slower than maybe like middle grade fantasy like Percy Jackson. I can actually deal with Percy Jackson, but this was just a bit too slow for me. Also very repetitive. So I only actually ended up with this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But if you don't know, this book follows our main character August, and he is 10 years old and he's always been homeschooled because he has a facial deformity, so his parents just didn't want to put him through that. But at the age of 10 they decided to put him into middle school, and it just follows his journey as he starts his middle school and makes new friends and has to deal with bullies. And it was a really sweet story, but slightly unrealistic. I think like the ending was a tad unrealistic, but it was still really good, but just not exactly for me. So the final book that I finished in the month of June was Save the Date by Morgan Matson. I did say I read this. This is definitely my favorite Morgan Matson book to date. I've now read all but Second Chance Summer, and I've also haven't read her books that are written under the pen name Katie Finn. This book, if you don't know, follows this girl called Charlie, and Charlie is the youngest of 5, and her older sister is about to get married, and they're actually gonna get married in the house that they all grew up in, which they're about to move out of. So it's kind of the last time that all of the siblings are gonna be together before all these changes start happening. Also, Charlie is about to finish high school and go off to university. So yeah, she just wants everything to go perfectly, but then the wedding planner quits and everything starts to go crazy and just nothing goes to plan. And this book was so much fun. I really liked the kind of disastrous aspect that everything just kept on going wrong. I also loved the fact that Charlie came from a big family because I'm actually the youngest of 4. I know that only 2 of my siblings have featured in my videos before, but I do have another brother, but he just doesn't want to be in my videos, which is fine. So yeah, I really liked that she was the youngest of 5 because I could just relate so much because I'm the youngest of 4. Also, like, the family was just crazy and like same. I really loved this book. I liked the romance. It wasn't too overpowering, which was great. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars and not a full 5 because I just felt like everything was just a bit too disastrous. Like, things just didn't stop going wrong until like the end of the book. So yeah, I just wanted things to stop going wrong and to actually go right for once. I ended up only giving it a 4.5 because I was slightly annoyed that things kept on going wrong. But it was still super enjoyable. Favorite Morgan Matson, and now I'm starting to warm more to Morgan Matson books, so who knows, maybe I'll read Second Chance Summer eventually. I have one more book to talk about, which is the one that I'm currently reading, and that is The Martian by Andy Weir. If you haven't been watching my channel for very long, you might not know that this is actually one of my favorite books of all time. It was my favorite book of last year. It's so phenomenal. The movie adaptation is also one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. I'm currently 180 pages in, and obviously tomorrow is the last day of June, so I might not finish it, but I also have it on audiobook, so I've been like listening to it on audio whilst I've been doing other things and then reading it physically before bed and stuff like that when I typically read. So I think I might be able to finish it by tomorrow, but this video is going up today anyway, so but I'm probably gonna end up rating it 5 stars, but I'll talk about it in July. But I just wanted to mention that I also got a decent chunk into this book too. Anyway, so these are all the books that I read in the month of June. Please let me know what you read down below. If you've read any of these, please let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. And also please let me know your favorite book of the month. I would like to know. If you have any recommendations, that's always welcome, although I shouldn't be buying any more books, so hopefully you recommend something that I already own. But that's going to be all for today's video, so I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. I upload videos on Mondays and Fridays, and I'm also trying to upload videos on Wednesdays as well, although my work schedule might be getting a bit crazy, so I might not be able to do that anymore, but I'm still going to try. But yes, that is going to be all for today's video, so I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye!